world's in desperate need of people that aren't afraid to kind of step up and take a lead, and again, to use their greatest gifts to serve others. And so find a way to say yes to opportunity. You don't know what the opportunity is, but find a way to say yes. And people always ask me, like, okay, what's your 5-year goal? What's your 10-year goal? And that's a really hard one to answer for me, because what I feel is like, if you do the best job every day that you can and you are just all in on that, your 5-year plan is going to happen. You're not even going to know it. I just would tell any leader, like, you know what, dig in and lead and find a way to just be better and better and better every day. The 1% rule.
Welcome back to the Change Starts Here podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Odham, and I'm excited to bring you a conversation that just might challenge how you think about school, work, and what it really means to prepare students for the future. Today, we're talking about career and technical education, but not in the way you might expect. If your mind goes, like mine unfortunately did, straight to wood shop or welding, buckle up, because we're about to go way beyond that. My guest today is McLain Schaefer, Director of LIFT, which stands for Leaders Innovating for Tomorrow, a regional innovation and technology center in Central Illinois that's rewriting the playbook for what CTE can and should be. McLain's background as a teacher, principal, and now a system-level leader has fueled his belief that students don't just need job training. They need leadership, agency, and real opportunities to discover who they are and what they can do. Under his leadership, LIFT has become a model for what's possible when we combine work-ready programming with world-class leadership development. It's also one of just a handful of high schools in the country to earn lighthouse status through the Leader in Me process, a sign that culture, character, and community matter just as much as the credentials. In today's episode, we'll talk about what it means to think and lead outside the box, how McLain is bringing business and education together in meaningful ways, and why programs like LIFT and Franklin Covey's new secondary curriculum are reshaping the future of education, one courageous step at a time. McLain is someone who you will see gives credit to everyone that he can, someone who lives very humbly, and this conversation is one that definitely challenged my paradigms as well as inspired me moving forward. I know it's going to do the same for you. So let's get into it. McLain, our good friend Christy Hild has been singing your praises for a while to me. I am incredibly excited to be able to talk to you, and I appreciate you making time to be here with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Humbled and honored for the opportunity.
Yeah, so here's one of my favorite questions. A guy named Brad Montague, the guy who developed Kid President, gave this to me a long time ago. It's my favorite question. It's, who are you and what do you love about what you do?
Okay, who am I? I would say I'm a passionate educator. I'm a leader. I would say I'm a father, a husband. That's how I would describe myself. What motivates me about what I do? I would just say the opportunity to just see change in kids' life and to just develop people and invest in them is the most rewarding experience. It's also the most challenging thing that people can do. And I think most who would be listening to this podcast would say it's also the most important work that we can all do.
I love it. So tell me, let's just start with your story, right? So I'm curious, what inspired you to leave the classroom and, I don't know, just lead something as ambitious and innovative as LIFT? And when I say LIFT, can you just start by saying what LIFT is? Because you and I have a lot of common vernacular in that, but for those listening, they probably have no idea. So explain it, and then just tell me what inspired you to sign up to lead, that kind of initiative.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot packed into that question.
Yeah.
So LIFT stands for Leaders Innovating for Tomorrow. And it really started with a vision in our region that's decades in the making without necessarily a clear path forward. And after the COVID pandemic, there was a local company in our community who their staff went remote, and so a building became available. And just being champions of education and champions of innovation and creation and all that fun stuff, they approached our school district and said, hey, we got this idea. What do you think about maybe using a floor or space in this building that's now empty for educational programming? And then on the shoestring pitch, this idea of LIFT, this innovation and technology center that is multi-story, that is a regional center that serves students from all over our region and all over our schools. That again had been a dream for a long time. And for me, that opportunity started with a phone call of the great leaders that I get to call friends. Christy Hild, being one of those great friends, said, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think about leading this?" And with a great team of people around us and just some great innovative thinkers, we are able to build and do something that's never been done before.
So would you call this like traditional CTE? Is this, you don't have to call it traditional CTE because I'm going to ask like what makes it different, but this is
Yeah.
basically, for lack of a better term, and I'm sure you'll be offended by me trying to bucket it there as CTE, right?
Yeah, so I guess traditionally, career technical education for sure. However, we started out with just the concept of this space, and I remembered vividly all of our newly hired facilitators. We don't call them teachers; we call them facilitators. That's intentional. We're all in a space, and it's me and Christy as well. And Christy asked the question of like, all right, what did you love about your educational experience growing up and what did you not love? And it was great because we had individuals in that room that were 50 years old, and we had brand new educators that this was their first teaching experience, and everywhere in between. And so the list of what we came up with still produced some common themes of what we didn't like and what we wanted and what we knew worked in education and what we didn't. And so from there, that laid the groundwork of our mission and our vision and our experiences and our beliefs and what we're committing to for kids. And so right away, we knew that our model was not going to be traditional, and how kids teach and learn was not going to be traditional. And it was going to take a special person to rewrite the script on what teaching and learning can look like and how to engage and motivate students, all while keeping true to that mission of like connecting our kids with the workforce and workforce partners. All of that kind of bundles up into that experience that day that just articulated like, hey, here's the vision forward, here's the path forward, and man, it's time to go. And it just, for our staff, I kind of consider myself like I'm the guy that gets to tell the story, but the team in the building that's doing the work like every day, that's grinding, man, they're doing incredible things for kids, and it's really just inspiring to be alongside of them.
That's awesome. Well, I think so. I love the facilitators versus teachers framework. That's really helpful. I think, and again, I'm trying to be as offensive, and that's not my spirit. Christy will tell you that as possible, just because I feel like it drives you to give a sharp answer. And so for me, many people still view CTE as shop class or auto repair or something, right? Like I'm not, and it's no offense to shop class or auto repair, but when you say CTE, it feels very technical in nature.
Yeah.
You started to go down this path, and I'm wondering if you can help, I don't know, reframe that understanding of what CTE and what does modern CTE actually look like, and why is it so critical today?
Yeah, so we fought really hard, and as we were like working with different thought partners across, really across the country, and conceptualizing what this space could be, there was a theme that kind of came up with these established CTE centers, and that theme was like, hey, you're going to have to fight the narrative that CTE is for those who can't do traditional school, and CTE being this shop class sort of thing. And so we were intentional from the beginning of just how we were going to set this. Like, if you want to go straight to work, this is a place for you. If you want to go to Ivy League, this is a place for you. And anywhere in between, like, here are the pathways for you to not only like discover and find your voice, but to do that with excellence and in a way that you're going to graduate ahead of your peers. And so for me, like, modern day CTE is the economic driver for our communities. Like, when you have successful models of career and tech ed within communities, this reverses the exodus, so to say, right? Where our graduates are leaving and going to other places, and it also creates new perspectives. What we find is like modern day CTE, it starts with just awareness. Our students don't know what's available to them and the needs within our community. And not only that, they don't know that these opportunities can lead to high pay, high skilled, successful life careers that take care of their families and job satisfaction. Like college is a popular track, and there are a lot of students that attend Lyft that are going to college. However, it's not the only way. And I think as educators, like we're pushed a little bit. It's kind of getting on my soapbox here a little bit, but we're pushed a little bit to put kids in this box, and our test scores and the things that we have to measure and we're held accountable for continue to push kids in toward this one track, and that's college a lot of times, when there's a world of opportunity, not only opportunity but like high need within our communities to produce these skilled workers, creative thinkers, leaders within their chosen fields.
Yeah, you said something that resonated with me. So I started teaching in the early 2000s, and No Child Left Behind was really important there. And just we're all a product of like when we started our educational career. Like so many of our paradigms are kind of formed there, right? I
Mhm.
feel very blessed to be part of an organization that is constantly challenging us to look in the mirror and challenging our paradigms. And so this question is it just sparked a question for me as you were talking about, college, non-college, whatever it is that you're looking for. You've worked as a teacher. If I'm right, I think you worked as an assistant principal at some
Yep.
point, maybe. Okay. Just correct me
Yep.
if I'm wrong anywhere.
That's
Now
right.
you're a regional CTE leader, which is Lyft. Again, I keep calling it CTE just for framework of others. We know Lyft is incredibly special, and everybody listening needs to go investigate this place. Um, what how has your definition for student success evolved over that time? Right? Because you started kind of saying it there, and I'm just curious, has it evolved? And if so, how would you describe how it's evolved?
Yeah, student success, the evolution of my definition isn't a number on a page. Success for me is growth. And growth only happens through failure. And we've had this awareness at Lyft as we've kind of designed what instruction looks like in our instructional model, and defining what that looks like, of instead of a one-time test that are high stakes that determines your outcome for this one moment. Like for us, um, that's not the constant. Learning is the constant, and a demonstration of a mastery and a skill is the constant, and showing growth over a period of time. And so, how I define that, and I stole this idea from another podcast that I listened to, is this idea of like the pinata effect. And so, how we talk about our students with this, and how we talk about our staff when we're trying to do new things, and is this idea of the pinata that at a 6 year old's birthday party, you spin the kid around, and he gets the stick and he hits the pinata, or she, and typically after that first hit, like you can't even notice damage. And then the second kid comes up, maybe some feathers fly off in the third, and now all of a sudden you start to see some cracks. The point is that even after the first hit, there's some invisible progress. Like a kid's not going to stop hitting because they know there's candy waiting for them in the middle of that. And so that's the definition of learning, and that like it takes multiple hits to get to the explosion of candy. And too many people quit when they're just one swing away from that great success. And that's the definition of learning. It's we found that that's really hard for kids. They're so used to being in a classroom and sitting in front of a teacher telling them what they need to know and then regurgitating on a test or an assignment. At Lyft, it's different. It's like, hey, here's some tools and some things you need to be dangerous. Now go and see if you can figure that out with some guidance on the side and support along the way. And the pinata effect is in full swing, pun intended.
Yeah, I love that. I have to steal that one.
Yeah.
Facilitators and pinata. I'm already keeping mental tabs to steal these. Don't
Right.
worry. Like I'll give you credit, just like I gave Brad Montague credit for to start this. I just want to make sure I have it sink in. You spend a lot of time with a great community there, and I'm probably making it too small by just saying Mattoon, right, Illinois. Like I think there's probably other communities that you obviously I know you serve at Lyft, but that are thought leaders in this process, and so these partnerships, whether it's businesses, community members, economic development groups, uh, I'm curious. when we talk about success, what are they telling you is success? How are they defining success and the graduates they're looking for coming from you, right? And I'm curious, how is Lyft uniquely delivering on that need?
Yeah, that's a great question. I thought when I went into this role, I was coming from a building principal role as an elementary school principal, and then jumping into this, I'm like, okay, yeah, like let's do this, and it's gonna be we're gonna work on teaching and learning, and it's gonna be we're gonna be focusing on just making our place great. What I failed to realize is when you're creating a product that is an economic driver of workforce development, and that is like what you're trying to do within the CTE world, that really quickly 30% of your job becomes running the building and everything that goes with that, and 70% of your job goes with building collaboration and regional partnerships with the employers and the businesses and the colleges and the universities in which we are sending graduates to, and amplify that to all the regional schools that we serve. Now there's an expectation of a product, right? What we talk about at Lyft is we had this brand new renovated building that we were just blessed that our board was brave enough to say, like, yeah, let's do this thing. But it's all facade unless we can produce the results and the outcomes. And so from day one, I'm going to give Christy Hild some all the kudos for this. She and our team were able to put together our advisory boards for every single pathway that we serve. And we asked our advisory boards, made up of our industry, of our businesses, of our university, of our colleges, of our parents, of our students, of key community leaders, of regional principals and superintendents, like those were our advisory boards, and they were out to and still are out to answer three questions for us of what is the curriculum, the certifications, the credentials, the dual credits that we need to give kids so when they graduate, they are most ready for their next step after graduation. What does the technology and the space need to look like so whatever they're working on, it is what they will be working on at graduation? And finally, what are the dispositions of the people that need to be leading these programs? What are their qualifications and skills? And so with that information, like, we leaned in on them. And every year, sometimes multiple times a year, we just had last night our student showcase capstone night, where our advisory board members come in and we hold a meeting, and anybody in the public can come and meet them and hear the discussions and what they're telling us to do, because um, we're educators. We know how to educate and to teach. We need to lean on them on what industry needs and what basically how to future proof our programs, so that way we are most equipped to produce that product and those graduates.
I love that. Can we go back over those three questions again? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know them well, so I won't even try to repeat them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The first question we asked is curriculum. What do we need to teach? Certifications, credentials, dual credits, etc. Like, what are those core teachings we need to do? The second thing is technology. What technology and equipment and items do we need within that space so when students are working, that is what will articulate to the workplace. And then finally, probably the most important, in my opinion, the dispositions of the people. Like, who are those people that can lead that and can teach at a high level, and really understand what it is that we're here to produce.
I love that. That sounds so easy. It's kind of like says easy, does hard, right? So there's some quick answers, then you're like, gotta find the people. Oh man.
Yeah.
But when you find the right people, that's the hard work. When you find them, I assume it goes like rocket fuel, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it does, but when you're doing anything new, like, you're going to be faced with challenges and hardships. And so, it's also people understanding that like, hey, innovation is hard, and doing things that's never been done before is hard, and creating that belief that this is never been done before, and sharing that with regional schools, saying, wait, how do you, like, what does this look like? Like, I mean, there's some challenges in that. So even in that space, right, that those challenges produce perseverance, proven character, and the team has just built some resilience and grit that just allows us to continue to do what we do.
I'm so glad you said it that way because sometimes within our work within Leader and Me, we'll have schools that we partner with for a long time who will hop on a podcast or something and say, it's not one more thing. It's amazing. It's like, it just is great. And I, as a former educator, I'm always like, no, 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 no. Go back to the first year, go back to the maybe second year. it was a lift because anything new that's worth it is a lift. It's always going to be hard, but that's what makes this joyful moment that you forget about all the hard work so worth it, because you're like, this has always been the right work.
Right.
Do you feel, does that resonate with you when you say that?
Yeah, it's problems don't go away, but they shift, and so it's
Yeah.
just it's great to see. I guess I don't want to call it the amplification of problems, but it's like the little things that we were worried about in year one, like those are gone, and now we're like solving like massive problems of building like workplace ecosystems and creating
Yes.
these youth apprenticeships and clearing the path for kids so they could come without barriers to tuition and travel and distance and just it just amplifies impact, I guess.
I love it. So, uh, we as an organization have been really fortunate and blessed to work with you all with our Leader in Me work, right? And so, you all are one of, I think, just a handful of high schools that are lighthouse schools in the country. And that's a
Yep.
really big deal in our world. And I would just say, like, I know that we have a rubric, and the gentleman, David Ansbacher, who's just a awesome man in our organization, who I have just great integrity. Like, I'm not trying to minimize his work with the rubric and everything else to attain lighthouse status. But the best way I know how to describe Lighthouse is the school that you walk into as an educator and you think, first and foremost, I would love to work here. And secondly, I want any kid I know in my life to go here. And so that is who what your school is. And I'm just curious, what what I guess what has the Leader in Me process meant to you, your students, your staff, and how has it helped you kind of redefine what leadership looks like in, the Lyft CTE space?
Yeah, that's a powerful question. And really, for us, it was the easiest question to answer out of all. And so hang on, and I'm going to tell you
That's crazy.
how this kind of came about. Yeah. So as an elementary school principal, I was a part of the Leader in Me implementation and kind of seeing that as start and then the shift to lift. What does that look like in a CTE world? To quote one of my one of our facilitators, he's like, "Hey, like this leadership stuff is soft and squishy, and my construction kids, they don't do soft and squishy." So like that is kind of like a little bit of the mindset going in here. However, I want to go back to the advisory boards. We have 7 pathways at Lyft and over 100 courses throughout all of those pathways, and those advisory boards essentially helped us build those. And we have everything from communications to childcare to HVAC and robotics and drafting, construction, electrical, leadership institute, a whole floor designated to just leadership development, culinary arts. So like this vast array of advisory boards and experiences and needs. There was one consistent theme in every single one of those advisory boards, and that was the need for graduates, employees, students that are going to be going to our institutions, that are graduating with 21st century leadership skills that can solve problems, that can communicate, that can collaborate, that know the importance of showing up, that have those key dispositions as a person, that they can not only lead self, but they can rise up and lead others. And so that was crystal clear. It was the common thread that connected everything that we had. And so the foundation of Lyft from the onset, before we even started like the reconstruction of the space, was like, hey, we're a leadership school first, creating leaders within their chosen field. And so how's this going to work? Well, we're going to build it. We're going to have the 7 habits, and we're going to embed this into everything we do. And we're going to have a Lyft leadership course that every student, regardless of pathway, they take that course and they get a credit. And working with your team at Franklin Covey, now micro credentials and credentialing, that this is going to like follow them on their transcript forever to communicate to their future employers, like, hey, I've done this, like here I've met the standard, and we're just so excited to see like how our business leaders and industry partners and trade unions are going to respond to their request for us to help develop leaders in their spaces.
That's awesome. How have you seen some of those paradigms shift from the early days of like, we don't like, I mean, at traditional high schools, I used to teach, I taught high school math. And so like in my most skeptical state, I'd be like, I love this, but I'm teaching trigonometry and I'm teaching where I have kids that are 2, 3, 4 grade levels behind. I don't have time to waste. And that would be my ignorant early days teaching. And I know now, I understand how that helped me grow by focusing on leadership skills for kids. What have been some of those paradigm shifts you've witnessed?
Yeah, so I think it's easy for everyone to say like, "Oh yeah, like build leaders, leadership this," right? Like, I mean, no one really is going to argue against that. It's a bad thing. So then it's just like figuring out like, all right, if it's that important, how are we going to intentionally just embed this into the systems and our operational structure? And so our team recognized that. And we had some grassroots effort that has been developed over this course of the few years to then being connected with your team to amplify our efforts to that. But for us, it's one recognizing like, okay, we're committed to this. So if so, what's the system that's going to run it? So we have that embedded into our weekly schedule. We have intentional leadership time, and the pure pinata effect. What that looked like year one has been different year two, has been different year three, and we're rolling out version 4.0 next year with the leadership curriculum through Franklin Covey for secondary ed, and we're calling it Leader Shift because it's moved and it's going to be better in its hands just from what we're learning into our systems and how to really use our staff strengths in order to make sure that we're teaching it with fidelity.
I love that. I think, Christy, one of the things that she told me why we would get along so well is that like, I think we're both very passionate people, but like, we're also healthily skeptical of like, is this true? Is this right? Is this the right work to focus on? And so I'm going to ask like more of a selfish question about our content because I am curious, and feel free to go whatever direction you want to with this. But we recently launched, as you guys know, a new secondary curriculum, right? Where our obsession is always how do we half the cost and double impact? That is something that Sean Covey has stated for forever. And with that, this curriculum is something that we've been obsessed with. How do we make it to where high schools don't feel like, I mean, you've seen it both. Elementary schools, we're not singing songs. We're trying to get kids ready for the future, right? And so I'm curious, how would you say, if it has this curriculum elevated what's already working at Lyft? And I don't know if you've seen some early wins, but I'm curious what early wins you've seen.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give a shout out here to our leadership facilitator. Her name's Jessica Peterson. She does Lighthouse School evaluations. She's been a part of the process from the very beginning. And I remember year one, it was like, "Hey Jess, like we're gonna build this, and we're gonna use what you know from the elementary level, from leading at the district level." And we're going to build out this lift leadership so that way we're intentional in making good on our promise. And so we went out to build that, and she would admit it wasn't great. It was kind of hard. Like, how are we going to do this for every kid in all these spaces and build that out? And that evolution continued. But we've been to speak specifically to the new curriculum. What we were like begging with our coaches and with everybody's like, hey, we need like we need more sustenance to this. We need a structure that not only like supports the students learning and engages them with meaningful work that's connected with these guiding principles and this leadership development that we want, but in our spirit of a career tech school, like what's the outcome that they get to walk away with and hold true to them? And we saw this model in other states where students were graduating and they had this leadership class that they had completed, and they had this stamp on their transcript, and employers recognized that so much that they would be guaranteed an interview, or you guaranteed a job and a 25-cent raise because you have this leadership thing, or fill in the blank for how employers were so hungry for kids that had taken this class. And so that vision was amplified with your team to be like, okay, like, yeah, we hear you, here is this. And the curriculum for us, that the fact that it's a project-based learning, and students are, before it was just like, hey, let us teach you this content and we're going to try to embed that learning within our current structures. now it is like you're not only learning how to develop as a leader, but then you're like actually showing that through your project based learning that are like kids are we had kids that were going to our local homeless shelter and teaching the 7 habits to our homeless friends and working through the 4 disciplines of execution on like, okay, like what's your big rock and what are our lead measures on how we're going to move through this. Like those are the kind of community impact projects, because we tell our kids like you can have all the skills in the world, but if you're not using your skills to make the world a better place, what, like you're wasting your time. And so the new curriculum has provided the path to take our skills to make the world a better place. So it's been a really beautiful evolution.
That's awesome. I think, one of the key reasons we wanted to have you on is that I firmly believe you all are a model that needs to be studied all across the country, right? And I'm going to just name right now. I mean, I think you've developed, this is probably an oversimplification, but I think you've developed um, a equitable CTE model for um, rural communities specifically, right? Like I think any community can learn deeply from what you've created there, but I do think there is something to be scaled here in rural communities, especially, and something that not many people have done anywhere. And so I'm just curious, what is your vision for, I don't know, scaling the model or inspiring similar innovation across the country? I know you, Christy, Jessica, have a lot of passion for it. So this would be the time to share, like, what's your hope for others, or what's your encouragement for others that are listening and potentially inspired to take some steps?
Yeah. So it kind of circles back to something I said at the very beginning, and just the sense of why I do what I do. And the world is in desperate need of leaders. The world's in desperate need of people that aren't afraid to kind of step up and take a lead, and again to use their greatest gifts to serve others. And so it's hard to ask a student to drive into a brick and mortar school in our 4 walls that is, an hour away. So, what are those ways that we can get creative with not only like satellite locations, but hybrid learning? I know that scares people, but we're going to have to think outside transportation barriers and those types of things. And then, how is that scalable? Like, what we're doing, I don't think is revolutionary. We just listened really well and had some people that were just laser focused on making this work no matter the obstacles in the path. And so like we're happy to share what we've done and how we've done it. And again, like the work of Franklin Covey now with the secondary curriculum, it opens a door of possibilities for everybody. Like the scalability is there in that sense as well. But yeah, we were intentional. We didn't want to do things the normal way from day one, and still aren't. And so we're just excited to see how others can learn from us. It's almost like pinch yourself moments. We'll get a phone call or somebody say, "Hey, can we heard about you? Can we come and talk to you, or can we meet with you?" It's like, we've been doing this for 3 years. What do we know? Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Come on. We'll show you our mess. Like, come on in. We'll learn and together, but you tell us where we can be better, because we want to learn from you too. So, yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've really appreciated about your community is that everyone that I've got the chance to engage with and our teams have got to engage with, you guys are consummate learners. It feels like, yes, you're bold and you want to embrace taking risks, but in that you want to be learning side by side anybody. So you guys are opening the doors constantly. Come look, come look, come look. But the sincerity in which, I don't know if everyone takes you up on it, but the sincerity which I know you all have in saying, please just give us some feedback, give us questions, help us learn from you is it's pretty incredible. I would say that's probably one of the most special parts of visiting you all.
Yeah, we wouldn't be where we're at today if others hadn't done the same thing. Learning from each other, like the answers in the room, and the answers all around us. And so it's a community, and it takes everybody, not just in our town, but everywhere. So there's a lot of people to thank.
That's awesome. Well, I'll give you a chance at the end to add anything you want. We need to move to rapid fire questions real quick. And I
Okay.
think you might have hinted at this earlier. I'm not sure, but uh, what is a student success story that gives you goosebumps, like that you've experienced the last couple of years that you just love to share?
Yeah, there's a student that comes to mind. We do a survey on students' next steps after graduation, and this student selected "I don't know," and we don't like "I don't knows" at Lyft. Not that we don't like them as the person, but we don't like that as the answer. And so our charge with our facilitators is, "Hey, I need you to put a period where there's a question mark, and so let's find this out." And there happened to be a business in town that was looking for a specific role. This student fit that bill. Our facilitator made the recommendation, and now this student has been thriving there in this organization for going on 3 years now. He was our first graduating class. Students had his college paid for by this institution. Is living within our community. Is very successful. It's just one of those. It's like the light bulb moment in just like a career. That is really really cool.
I love it. I love, would you say anywhere there's a question, we try to put a period on it?
Yep, there's a question mark. We want to put a period.
I love that. All right. What is a leadership book that you've read either recently or in your lifetime that you often recommend to other leaders?
Yeah. So that's a good question. One that's just been like recent that I think's been very helpful for me is a book called Necessary Endings. It's one, I think all leaders kind of struggle with this idea. So it was very very challenging for me, but also like created some perspective that I needed a little bit of.
I have a good friend who was recommended for that for me recently. So
Mhm.
I think this is someone else's way of saying you need to actually take him up on it.
It's good.
That's great. All right. We both are immersed in travel baseball these days. And so I always lead it with saying, this question was built by this 11-year-old in my back right, maybe left, if you're watching. He loves his walk-up songs and takes it very seriously. And now he's starting to change them like every week or two, depending on his vibe, he says, which is not a word I was ready for from 11-year-old. And
Let's
so
go.
my 9-year-old is also talking about his vibes lately because of it. So if you have a walk-up song, what walk-up song would put you in the right vibe, to quote Luke Odom?
Yeah, wise kid you have. I like that. The vibe. Lately, I've been vibing on Forrest Frank. His song "Up" comes to mind. Like, I mean, my kids are playing that all the time too. So, I mean, that's on the Spotify playlist. It's going. So, I'm gonna go with Forrest Frank.
Not
Anything really.
not that you answer. He just came to St. Louis, and it was I spent way more money than I ever wanted to in life to get a VIP experience. And we got there a little bit early and got a chance with like, I don't know, 40, 50 other people to watch him by himself on stage for a couple songs. His new album, this won't be released on that date, but his new album just came out today. So that'll help people figure out when we uh, got together. And my kids and I
Okay.
already had a listening party. So in the
Nice.
room, I'm going to tell you when you get off, just put on In the Room and let me know what you think.
Okay, I'm on it.
All right. Last question. What is one piece of advice that you have for a new leader or a leader who's trying to, muster up the courage to try something new? Or like for you, stepping in from elementary to high. I went the opposite way. I went from high school to elementary where I was like, I don't know how to do hugs and rainbows, and it was really awkward for me. So I am curious about that. So what's your encouragement for folks who are trying to step outside their box?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is just find a way to say yes to opportunity. You don't know what the opportunity is, but find a way to say yes. And people always ask me like, okay, what's your 5 year goal? What's your 10 year goal? And that's a really hard one to answer for me because what I feel is like if you do the best job every day that you can and you are just all in on that, like your 5 year plan is going to happen. You're not even going to know it, right? And that's my story. And I just would tell any leader like, you know what, dig in and lead and find a way to just be better and better and better every day. The 1% rule, like find that, and it's going to come. Success is going to happen, and you're going to add value.
I love it. My stepdad was a political consultant for a long time. He always told people, "Is like stop worrying about your next job. If you just focus on doing absolutely the best at your current job, the next job you'll have the opportunity. But if you skip over focusing on being the best or where you're at, you probably won't ever get the next opportunity. And
That's
so that's
exactly
what
right.
makes me think of when you say that. That's something that's never, I mean, that has been my obsession. And people think it's weird. I think probably McLain sometimes where, you're an ambitious person and like want to serve and want to take on roles, but they're like, you don't have a 5-year outcome. You don't have a 10-year outcome. And you're like, no, I just feel very blessed to wake up today and I'm going to be great today and we'll see what opens. Right.
Living in purpose. That's
I
it.
love it.
Living in purpose.
I love it. All right. This is the last question. Is there anything I didn't ask or anything that has just been on your heart when you're like, I'm doing a podcast? Not that you're a me person in any way, but just something that has come across your world recently that you just want to share and inspire others.
I don't know. I think I've kind of said it. And just the world needs leaders, and now more than ever, especially in education, leading is really hard. And there's just an element of bravery to all the great educators out there that are doing just great work. So I don't know if it's inspiring or not, but it would just be to keep pushing forward because it's worth it, and our kids are worth it, and our communities are worth it every single time.
I love it. Well, McLain, this has been awesome. I appreciate it. And as Christy has probably told you, I came up there recently with all 3 boys in tow. We had dinner and we played games at that new facility there, the basketball facility
Yep.
um, in
Yep.
Mattoon. And we had hibachi for the first time, which was great. And then we went to the
Okay.
Sullivan Theater. So
Yeah.
I am positive Christy Hild and Sean Hild will get me up there again. And so I will make sure I come see you when I'm there.
Yeah.
Thank you for making time. I look forward to our paths crossing again in the near
Yeah.
future.
Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity, Dustin.
All right, thanks.